From the world's greatest and biggest Justin Gaethje fan. We actually have access to that person, right? Yeah, absolutely no cap right here on this show. So RJ, you said it. We got a lot to get to. Yes, it's fight week. Yes, it's exciting. Obviously, history on the line, divisional standing on the line, and as you kind of said, like a fork in the road. The sport could look very different after Saturday, and I don't think that is being hyperbolic. Oh, and another great thing about Saturday, RJ, we were kind of talking about this before the show starts. Afternoon fights on the West Coast. Let's go.
It's the brunch bunch. That's what we do. The brunch punch. Punch brunch?
It works. It works both ways. Yeah.
Either way, I'll have maybe 2 mimosas in me, and the pay-per-view's already starting here on the West Coast. When my baby wakes up at 7:15 in the morning, I will have pre-prelim UFC wakes up at 7:15 in the morning, I will have pre-prelim UFC action on my
Anytime RJ Clifford can get an excuse to start getting the alcohol in his system a little bit earlier. It is a blessed day in the Clifford house to start getting the alcohol in his system a little bit earlier. It is a blessed day in the Clifford household.
Normally I have to wait till 9 a.m. like a schmuck, because that's when college football starts.
I like the enthusiasm, RJ. And I'm stoked, man.
I like that we get to spend this fight week together here on this Wednesday, because
I'm glad that we get to spend this fight week together here on this Wednesday, because we got audio from the press conference earlier today, and we're going to get into that. But we get a fight like this. We got audio from the press conference joking a little bit, but I mean, there is some truth to it, right? You go to boxing earlier today, you get some work in, you spar a little bit, you hit the pads. It feels different because what's on the mind. We got fighting on the mind. It's kind of like it's like back in the driveway, back when we were kids. You call out Jordan, for that game-winning shot, or if you're of a certain generation, maybe you're calling out Kobe or LeBron, right? It's just the fighting spirit is in the air, RJ. Who would you as I'm thinking about you being excited at boxing class, I'm just trying to think, like, you've always been a fight fan. I've always been a fight fan. Who would you try to mimic in those early training sessions? Because I'm sure you had your heroes.
It's funny. After Canelo Alvarez's last fight, I was trying to do the Canelo where he leans forward, real far forward, with his right hand by his chin, and
side is obviously Justin Gaethje. If he walks away with victory, I kind of feel like I think about this, RJ, and we didn't really talk about this, but as I'm kind of working myself into a shoot here, I think back to Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko over the weekend, which we're going to get to here a little bit later in the show, but more around the kind of controversy of the judging of that fight. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that was talked about after the fight, and one of the things that I agreed with heading into that fight, right, RJ, was that if Teofimo Lopez wins this fight, it's better for boxing. And that's not a dig on Vasily Lomachenko. It's just a little bit of the Eastern European accent stuff. How relatable is he? That whole thing. Like, Lomachenko I love him. I've been enjoying watching him for the past few years and doing the amazing work that he's been doing inside the square circle.
What his problem is, Ryan?
But
he's not Russian enough. You know what I mean? Like, if he just like Khabib is just obviously he's Chechnyan and Lomachenko's Ukrainian, but he's just too normal, right? He's just a standard issue Ukrainian. He needs one of those giant hats.
Yeah.
He needed to talk about how terrible capitalism is. He needs an edge to him,
Needs a gimmick. It needs a gimmick. Yeah, one of those
Russian
terrible hats. I like that. Yeah. Right. No, I like that. But to the point that about the fight itself, and more so what happened after the fight, RJ, I was making the case before and after that a Teofimo Lopez win would be better for the sport of boxing. And I kind of feel the same way heading into this Gaethje Khabib fight. Khabib is a superstar. Dana White, you're going to hear from him throughout the show. We've got clips from the presser. He's saying this fight is trending, record numbers. There's no question Khabib is a popular fighter. No question, right? Worldwide popularity, all that. But in terms of charisma, in terms of sellability, in terms of marketability, in terms of, just especially in the case of a North American audience, I there's this part of me that feels like Gaethje has more upside in the long haul, because I mean, Gaethje is everything we love about this sport, RJ, and that's not a knock on Khabib. Khabib is great, arguably the greatest pound for pound fighter right now, and one of, if not the greatest fighter of all time. But you get what I'm saying about how this could be really great for MMA if Gaethje comes out victorious on Saturday.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, Dana White's been telling everyone who will listen all week long how, this is trending to be one of the biggest pay-per-view ever, even bigger than Khabib versus Conor McGregor. And again, like, Khabib is, he's larger than life in a way, and not larger than life like Conor, who's like outspoken, outrageous, or like a John Jones, just like decimates everybody and does whatever he wants outside the cage. He's larger than life in the sense that, like I talked about before, he's he's Chechen, but he just feels so Russian, right? Just feels like, like the Rush. He wrestled bears when he was a kid, and he's got that crazy hat, and he talked like this, like I break you and I punch you, and then you go nowhere. His number one bullshit. Like it's just he's repeatable, right? Like I have a theory, like the more you're able to impersonate a fighter, like if you're like a really good impersonator and you're able to impersonate a fighter, the easier it is to do it, the more popular the fighter, right? So like George St. Pierre, I go into my dark place and there's nothing you can do and I have the passive income, right? Like that's easy to do. Conor McGregor, right? Obviously easy to do. Khabib, easy to do. The more you have like this character that you can impersonate and sound like, the more popular they are because they stand out. They're not just one of the pack. And when you have a UFC roster of like 600 or so fighters, you got to be able to stand out. But those are all like, that's all window dressing. The best part about Khabib's rise to stardom and him being such a superstar, he did it by winning.
Yeah.
He did it by winning. 28-0, every single person he faced walked away the lesser man. Every single one of them. And only like 25 of those were close, right? There's like he's in maybe like 3 close fights in his entire life. That's why he's the superstar. The old-fashioned way, crushing every carbon-based life form that's locked inside that cage with him.
Yeah, and I like that. I like how you kind of put it about it being old school, and he did it, I don't want to say like the right way, but he did it in a way, at least in 2020, that maybe we aren't as accustomed to, or I mean, definitely a bit of a throwback, right? Where the wins and losses speak for themselves. Mm-hmm. And again, not a knock on Adesanya or Gaethje or anybody else who brings a little flash and pizzazz. Khabib, hey, listen, RJ, Khabib is flashy in his own way. Like I've never seen someone pummel an opponent while just like very methodically and just very matter-of-factly being like, I need this title shot. Like, quit, dude. Like, I'm going to keep beating the shit out of you. Like, that's a level of a level of gangsterdom, if I can make up my own word that, yeah, man, I can't really recall. There aren't any really fighters like Khabib Nurmagomedov. And, the same thing can be said about Justin Gaethje. I remember talking to Joe Silva. Had to been like 10 years ago. It was, remember, RJ, do you remember when Chris Lieben went on that 10-day run of Akiyama and Vanderlei Silva, and he had those back-to-back fights?
Yeah, was it like 13 days? It was like Saturday. Was it 10? I thought it was like a Saturday and a Friday. Anyway, very quick run.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. It was, as you said, it was like a Saturday or a Friday. It was a very quick run. Anyway, I remember talking to Joe Silva about that run with Chris Lieben and being concerned. I was like, there's just not going to be that level of fighter anymore. Like people are going to be too corporate. There's going to be too many people worried about the risks at hand, and no one's going to want to go out there and just bang and put it all on the line. Oh my God, how wrong I was, especially looking at a fighter like Justin Gaethje. All right, real quick, as we're talking about Gaethje and Khabib, we got tons of audio. The press conference from Fight Island, from Abu Dhabi, happening earlier today. RJ, I want you to hear a little bit. I want the listeners to hear a little bit from Dana White as we talk about this pound-for-pound rankings and where Khabib finds himself at the top of the sport. His boss, Dana White, surprise, very high on the one Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Eagle.
Khabib is looking down the barrel of, not only the greatest to ever do it in this division, but he's look. I think if he beats Justin on Saturday, he's the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, and he's on his way to GOAT status. And like he said, he doesn't say if, how long he's going to stick around and how many more of these he's going to do. But pretty impressive what this guy has done. To be sitting here, I mean, you know what I think of John Jones, and we always talk about what John's accomplished in his career. Look at how many fights this guy has, and he's still undefeated. And this is a nasty, nasty weight division.
Dana White talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov. RJ, listen, I want to get your thoughts on that because I think there's a lot you can break down. You and I disagree on the greatest of all time conversation all the time. I have John Jones up there. You like and like to put GSP up there. Now, Khabib Nurmagomedov is certainly entering that territory, but the question remains, with only 2 title defenses to his credit, can a man with only 2 title defenses actually be considered the GOAT? And how much will Saturday play into that? We got more as far as that goes, and we got more audio from today's presser. We are just getting started.
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 254, live at a special time of 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday. An explosive championship fight as undefeated Khabib Nurmagomedov takes on the highlight Justin Gaethje for the undisputed lightweight title. New subscribers get UFC 254 and a year of ESPN Plus for only $84.98. With ESPN Plus, you'll get unrivaled UFC access, including exclusive fights and original content. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
As Justin Gaethje meets up with Khabib Nurmagomedov, trying to take out that 155-pound champ and supplant himself. Gaethje, the highlight, as one of the more exciting, one of the more dominant fighters in mixed martial arts today, but he is going to have to get through, RJ, as we just heard, arguably the most dominant fighter in mixed martial arts today, in Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, RJ, before we went to break, we heard some audio from Dana White where he was talking about, Khabib rising the pound for pound ranks and GOAT status and all that. My question to you is, okay, so if Khabib wins on Saturday, it will be his 3rd title defense of this 155-pound belt. I know that's crazy. I don't know how many people out there are aware of that. Yes, dominant, undefeated fighter, this will still only be his 3rd title defense. Can a man who's only had 3 title defenses be considered the pound-for-pound GOAT, or the pound-for-pound best right now, RJ?
So look, I don't look at title defenses the same way I think most people do. To me, again, I've said on this airwaves a million times, a belt is only as good as the man whose waist it's wrapped around. So, it's class. Petrion, you can make a case it's Aljamain Sterling, and obviously Henry Cejudo retired. Like, that's kind of murky. But generally, the UFC champion is the best in the world, and it's very, very rare where that's not the case. So it means something. But to me, the title defenses, it's just so far behind who you beat and how you beat them. Like, and again, do we count Jose Aldo's WEC title as true world championship title defenses? Because it wasn't a UFC title, but it was the best belt available for that weight class at the time. How much did the Pride belt count versus the UFC belt? Like, there's all these things. Look, how many different belts did Fedor fight for, win, or defend during that 10-year stretch? Doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter. He went 10 years.
RJ,
he beat.
Yeah. RJ, this is the UFC belt, though. We're not talking about different belts. This is the UFC belt, and he's only defended it 2 times.
Okay, but how many great fights weren't for a belt, and how many crap fights were for a belt? Khabib Nurmagomedov versus, Edson Barbosa, great fight for both guys at the time. No belt on the line. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Rafael dos Anjos, 2 of the best lightweights in the world at that time. They both became champions later. Belt wasn't on the line. Does that win mean less than him fighting Al Iaquinta for the vacant title? That's my point. Sure, it means something, but I'm not going to give a hard line and say, no, you must have at least 5 UFC title defenses. Doesn't matter who. Doesn't matter if they're short notice. Doesn't matter how it came about. It doesn't matter if they earned that title shot because they won the Ultimate Fighter or because 7 guys got hurt and you're the 8th guy on the line and that means more. No. I'm not going to give a hard line like that. It's quality of opposition that you faced and beat.
All right. So how much stock do you put in activity? And I'll throw that question out to the listeners. 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893. When you're making these lists, these hypothetical subjective lists about greatest of all time or pound for pound, whatever ranking you're doing, how much do you account for activity? And RJ, I'll ask you that question because it sounds like
activity, as long as you are undefeated and you're winning in dominant fashion is the way Khabib Nurmagomedov is, it sounds like you're okay with him taking one fight every 12 months, one fight every 18 months. It doesn't seem to bother you.
Well, I hate it as a fan, and it's obviously not good. Like it's been proven time and time again that long layoffs, generally don't work for you. So it's not good. But when you're talking about legacy, no, I don't think layoffs affect legacy. If anything, coming back from long layoffs only helps your legacy. George St. Pierre coming back after 4 years, going up a weight class and beating the UFC champion Michael Bisping, I think that's a far bigger feat than if then he would have beat Johnny Hendricks and then 6 months later went up and beat Michael Bisping. Like those long layoffs could almost help you sometimes. Like, Muhammad Ali taking years off his, taking several year layoff, coming back and being champion again. Like that could be great. Like that could be something special. Now, it would have meant more for GSP if he was fighting twice a year during that time and won 8 straight fights, right? Like that would obviously mean more than the time off. But to say it hurt the legacy? No, not at all.
Well, let's get into some X's and O's on this fight because I'm really interested to see, at least on the surface level. I know you're going to be interested to see on Thursday, at least on the surface level. I know you're going to be back, but it won't be with me and I. And we've known each other a long time, RJ. But this is one of those fights that doesn't come around a long time. So this is one of those fights that doesn't come around all too often. This is from an X's and O's from a styles-fight standpoint. A-level. This is championship level, 5-star A-level in the main event championship Saturday. We got a little audio here from the contender Justin Gaethje. We got a little audio here from the contender. Really appreciate this about Gaethje, the self-awareness. I really appreciate this about making jokes on social media. Like almost like John Jones has a real strong understanding of where his bread is buttered. Gaethje has a real strong understanding. I've always enjoyed that about him. I've always enjoyed that his candor. And I've always enjoyed that about him. I've always enjoyed that his style and what he is. I've always enjoyed his openness. And it wasn't any different today at the press conference here as a fighter. Gaethje and Khabib. And it wasn't any different today in Abu Dhabi. This is Justin Gaethje talking about how screwed he's going to be in this fight against Khabib if he does this. Justin Gaethje.
He hasn't wrestled or fought somebody that has wrestled or grappled as long as he has. That is me. I have. Everyone says, they're ready. I will not allow him to put me on the fence. And if I do, then I'm screwed. So my game plan is to, if he wants to grapple, let's grapple in the middle. And at all times, I will be, said 1,000 times, I cause damage. I have dense bones, and, I'm going to kick his legs. That's where it's going to start, and then we're going to move on from there.
RJ, if I was making a blueprint on how to Gaethje for Gaethje on how to best potentially dethrone Khabib Nurmagomedov, this is basically exactly what I would say. Not that he needs the advice, but he's right. I don't think he's particularly fought a wrestler like Gaethje, at least in the context of what Gaethje's bringing behind him in terms of the power and the offensive output. This is a matchup that Khabib hasn't seen.
I just love that we got an update on the density of Justin Gaethje's bones. I was very worried about that. I was like, all right, what's his blood type? What's his bone density? And you can throw in some hydration levels in there as well. Yeah, he makes a great point. He makes a really great point. Like, even though, Khabib Nurmagomedov has fought some pretty good MMA wrestlers, like Rafael dos Anjos, sure, or, Gleison Tibau, which was his closest fight of his UFC career. He hasn't fought any Division I All-Americans. Ali Quinta was like a junior college wrestler. Pat Healy, I think he wrestled at Southern Illinois University, a D2 program, but didn't really, do anything special. And then Abel Trujillo was an NAIA All-American, but a Division I All-American wrestler. It's kind of crazy. They went 28 fights without running into a Division I All-American wrestler. And that's a really big deal. Obviously, Justin Gaethje wants to stay off his back, right? Obviously, he wants to stay off the fence and not get taken down by Khabib Nurmagomedov. But that, to me, is only the second or third most important thing. The number one important thing for Justin Gaethje to do for success, he's going to get taken down at some point. He's going to get pushed against the cage at some point. The number one thing for Justin Gaethje is, can he get up? How fast does it take Justin Gaethje to get off his back and on the feet where he wants to be? And then 1A, 1B, how drained is he going to be when he does get off his back? Khabib Nurmagomedov's greatest weapon isn't his takedowns. It's being able to ride you like Seabiscuit and wear you out to the point where you're not the same fighter after you get up again. Dustin Poirier was not the same fighter in round 2 after getting ridden by Khabib. Conor McGregor, not the same fighter in round 2 after being ridden by Khabib in round 1. Edson Barbosa, Michael Johnson, all these guys continued to fight after round 1, but they were done. They were shells of themselves. They were completely wiped because it's one of the most unique, tiring elements of combat sports, being out wrestled, being ridden, having someone wrist ride you or spiral ride you, carry your weight, press their hips against you. There's something extreme. It's a different cardio than running a marathon or doing 1,000 pull-ups or all the different ways you can work out. It's something very, very unique, and pretty much only lifelong wrestlers are elite at being able to not get tired while wrestling super hard. So if Khabib Nurmagomedov is able to do to Justin Gaethje what he did to Poirier, McGregor, Barbosa, Johnson, all those guys, completely wiped them out with wrestling, he is untouchable. If Justin Gaethje can't do it, I don't know anyone at 155 that can do it, with the exception of maybe Tony Ferguson.
And even then, you look at Ferguson's last fight. I 3 years ago, I might have agreed with you, RJ, but I think Ferguson has some work to do. We're going to actually be talking a little bit about Tony Ferguson coming up in hour 2, surrounding one Mike Chandler. But back to what RJ was just saying on the subject of Khabib Nurmagomedov and his wrestling, and more, not even just the wrestling, his gas tank and the pressure he applies to you. I just talked about how Justin Gaethje was very aware of what it's going to take for him to potentially dethrone Khabib Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov, very aware of what it's going to take to neutralize one Justin Gaethje and avoid that power. And it starts with what RJ was just talking about, that unrelenting gas tank. This is Khabib earlier today from Fight Island.
I know you know how to wrestle, but what about wrestling 25 minutes? It's going to be like I told DC today. Like when you fight with Stipe Miocic last time, you grab his leg one time and you take him down, and he get up very quickly, and that's it, and you finish. And other minutes all going stand up. But between me and DC is big difference. And if I'm gonna try to take him down once and he gonna defend his goods, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go all night.
And that's what's so terrifying. That was Khabib Nurmagomedov earlier today from Fight Island. RJ, obviously, I've never fought, at least not professionally. You're the professional fighter. We both deal with fighters. We both know they're human. They're subject to emotion and feelings like, everybody. They're not superhuman, right? But I feel like Khabib makes fighters nervous. Probably isn't the right word, but a heightened sense. Like, even the world's best fighters know that when they're in a cage with Khabib Nurmagomedov, that they're in the cage with the world's best fighter. I'm not saying they don't think that they can beat him, but I'm saying that sort of measured, just almost like formulaic, just matter-of-fact response from Khabib, it's so formulaic and matter-of-fact, and he believes it because it's true. Like, this dude is not going to stop. Like, he's just not. There's been no inclination that there is even an ounce of, not quit, but just tire in Khabib. Like, the dude is an absolute machine. And yeah, I really don't have a better word for this, RJ, but the mind fuck that must present to every single person that's trying to get in the cage with them, I don't think that can be understated. I don't know how much it's going to affect Gaethje, but to say it won't affect him at all, I think that's being short-sighted.
Every single professional fighter, every single one of them, without question, the practice they hate the most is wrestling practice. And that's even true for the wrestlers, right? It's the worst practice. It's just grind. It's just, all right, forehead in your eye, sprawling, shooting, taking stuck under someone who's sprawling on you, clinching someone up against the cage.